Okay. Good evening, everybody who is listening to us or watching us on whatever format you may happen to be consuming this wonderful podcast. We are the Turkish Diplomats. You're listening to Charming Noise. I am one of your three co-hosts, Thomas Crofel, and with me today is Calvin Roach.
Christ, this movie was bad.
And Paul Hogue.
This was the greatest movie ever.
I have to say, gentlemen, that I fall somewhere in between both of those because this was really an amazing film.
I really enjoyed it, honestly.
Actually, right before, just a few minutes ago, Wolf called, and he said, "Say hi," by the way, and I was telling him what the movie we were doing tonight. He goes, "My mom took me to see that in the theater."
That's awesome.
And what movie are we talking about, Calvin?
Black Mama, White Mama with Pam Grier and Margaret Markov.
All right, so Paul, since you chose this masterpiece.
I did. I will explain the movie. I want to start first by saying the reason I kind of came across this movie, it was my turn to pick one. I started looking at the fact that during the early 70s, there were a lot of movies that were coming out with the word mama in the title. Okay.
Right.
So there
Motorcycle Mama.
Motorcycle Mama, which actually I have a story with that is I think KAAY, because there was a hit song called Motorcycle Mama.
Yeah.
And KAAY had this contest where they had different, all they were told was a mother is walking around Little Rock and we'll tell you general area where she is, and you come up to different mothers and ask them if they're the Motorcycle Mama. If they say yes, you win like $10.90, whatever it was.
Oh, darn. That's hilarious.
And we were at Park Plaza, and apparently all these girls kept coming up to, and some guys kept coming up to my mom. And
we should let Barry McCorkindale know that story because he used to work at KAAY.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, he's over on the tip of the rock stop, and he still does Barry Mack on the Arkansas Radio Network.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So there was Motorcycle Mama,
Big Mama. Can't forget Big Mama.
Big Mama. Yeah.
Big Bad Mama.
Crazy Mama. Big Bad Mama. Big Bad Mama 2. The Colbys. And so
it was so bad it deserved a sequel.
That's right. Hey, it had Danielle Briesbaugh when she was all grown up, so it was fine with me. So anyway, this was Black Mama, White Mama. It's an American International picture, and apparently American International is the one that chose the title, and the director didn't like. Eddie Romero was the director. He's mostly known for he did a bunch of kind of exploitation movies in the 70s that were released in the States, but he's mostly a Philippine director, and this was all shot in the Philippines.
Yes, go ahead, Paul. Go ahead.
So I'll give the short synopsis of it. It starts as a women's prison film, a fine genre if there ever was one.
That's true.
And
highly underrated and overlooked.
That's right. And so it starts with this bus ends up showing up at this prison, and they've got the new fish have come in, so to speak. And that includes our two main stars, Karen and Lee. Lee is played by Pam Grier, and she's amazing in it. Pam Grier is great in everything she does. And I forgot, Markov?
Margaret Markov.
Margaret Markov was Karen in this.
Yes.
And
Before you go too much further, you got to mention what this was very loosely based off.
It's very loosely, and I mean really damn loosely, based on the Defiant ones.
Yeah.
Which I think was
Tony Curtis
and Harry Belafonte.
Sidney Poitier.
Oh, Sidney Poitier. Sorry, Sidney Poitier.
Because he's coming to dinner.
They call me Mr. Tips. Yeah. Yeah, he was. That's a great movie. So it's kind of on that because they also end up becoming escaped prisoners that are chained together after breaking loose from. But the deal is like Lee is supposed to be a hooker who has stolen a bunch of money, and Karen is a rebel who's trying to free everyone on the island, which they never say what the island is ever once.
At one point, you see
Philippines, but
you on one of the cops' costumes it says Manila Police.
Oh, I didn't realize it.
Yeah.
They are sort of being. One thing you notice, all the prisoners are real good looking.
Yeah,
and as are all the guards, and there are the warden and main guard. The main guard. Matron Dinsmore, what do we know her from?
Which one was that? That was
she was a blonde, right?
Was the blonde woman who, when the prisoners first get their first shower, she is hiding in the stall in like a room next to it with a hole and has a fairly graphic masturbation scene while she's watching.
She was in the Frogs.
That's right. She was the young mother in Frogs that gets eaten by the snapping turtle.
That's right. Holy shit, we made a connection.
That's right. We've
made a cinematic connection.
So, and then there's a warden, also played by another really good-looking actress, who I forget what, Laurie Burton.
Yeah.
And anyway, at some point, for some reason, there's a lot of interest in these two women. And so they end up, and now there's a lot of different kind of lady prison things like food fights and that sort of thing. And
if it was a classic drive-in exploitation cliche, it was in this film.
That's exactly right. There's lots of boobies and lots of skin and miraculous changes of clothing without warning. So.
How did they change clothing while chained together?
Once you practice it,
yoga.
It's that thing where, have you ever seen that test where they show the video where you have the knot, there's no way the thing will come out, but if you cross this, and so they just dislocated a couple of shoulders and they were able to do it. So
that makes sense. Yeah.
So anyway, the minister, which they never tell you the minister is, it's something like a prime minister or minister of, a cabinet head, wants to talk to both of these women. And so they've got the bus loaded up with guards and a couple of prisoners, and these rebels end up they set up an ambush and they're attacking the bus. They end up strangling the matron. And so she's gone from the rest of the movie, and then they shoot down the warden, so she's done for the rest of the movie. And Karen and Lee take off running through the jungle, just trying to get away. Now, Karen belongs to the rebels, and why she didn't run towards them, I don't know, but she didn't. They take off the opposite direction, and
why didn't they take the key from the warden they strangled for the manacle?
Because that would be the end of the movie.
It's like, why didn't they just use the fucking eagles in Lord of the Rings?
For the same reason that when they run off into the jungle, they're not holding anything and they're wearing pink dresses, and then they come over the hill and they're wearing bright yellow dresses.
I noticed that they were like pink jackets over these long t-shirts and just panties.
Yeah. But you don't see, like, when they first appear in the yellow dresses, the pink dresses are not visible. And then somebody apparently realized that. So they started wearing the pink dresses around the middle about halfway through the movie.
Which on the back of the pink ones, it said prison.
Yeah,
That's how you knew they were prisoners.
That's right.
not the exact same dress. So,
Now I want to back up a little bit. Let's back up to the prison, because
okay.
this was one of those constant tropes in drive-in movies, and I hate using the word tropes, but this fits. They said wet them down after they arrived, so they had to go do the obligatory shower scene.
They did. Within the first 15 minutes.
Within like the first 5.
Yeah. Like they get in and they announce it, we have to wet them down, and that's it. They start to
and they're in there showering, and they're all kind of giggling and laughing since they're fresh in prison, and somebody pulls out a water hose and opens it up, and when they showed it hitting the girls, it was like a fire hose was hitting these girls. But when they actually showed the hose, it's just a trickle of water that's barely going like 5 or 6 inches away from the nozzle. They just
and one of the prisoners had been there before.
Oh yeah,
4 times, and she makes a crack, says, "Well, that's the closest to a man you'll be seeing for a long time," with that limp hose. I felt attacked.
it's never happened to me before.
Except right now.
Yes.
When was the last time you were in prison, Paul?
The last time.
Are you drinking a cheer wine?
No, just regular.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh,
regular wine.
Okay, regular wine, a can.
Like you're getting that.
So
they've 600 miles away. You can't have my cheer wine.
So our young mother from the Frogs, she ends up going into a closet in the shower and looks very Porky style, looks through a peephole.
I thought the same thing. Porky.
From the shower side of it, it's a pinprick. From her side of it, you could run a fist through that hole.
You could fire a bazooka through that hole pretty easily. Still have enough room to aim. And then, I kept thinking she's making a lot of noise because she hits her Shangri-La, pretty quick.
The moment of clouds and rain, as they used to say in Japan, as they said in the novel Shogun. I remember that.
What now? What's the phrase?
The moment of clouds and rain. I read that in the novel Shogun.
That's awesome.
I've had that book for years and still haven't opened it up.
Well, if you watched the miniseries in the early '80s, you don't need to. But they both sucked.
Okay, so anyway, we've done the shower scene. We've covered all the important parts of prison, the gratuitous nudity of it all.
Yeah.
And the smuggled in marijuana.
Oh, and the smuggled in marijuana, which, if you have connections, there's a whole lot of it apparently.
Yeah.
And then they're on the bus. They're being transported from the prison to someplace.
Right, and then so they're attacked by
there's the
rebel
escape
group that Karen belongs to, but they end up going the opposite direction. They end up in the new dresses, and so they're going around, and then they see a monastery. They come over this hill. They see a monastery. So there's these 2 nuns walking down and they did what I thought was kind of a funny scene, because they let the nuns walk out of camera view, and then you hear ah.
That was funny. That was a laugh out loud moment for me.
Scene, there they are, and they're dressed as nuns in habits that fit them absolutely perfectly. And so they see a guy driving a dump truck. They get his attention. He offers to drive them. So this is drinking and driving a dump truck, which is my idea of heaven, really.
Which is kind of an Arkansas thing.
And here's a piece of trivia about that. The truck driver was played by Bruno Punzalan, who played Bruno Punzalan in the movie.
Bruno Punzalan.
So
the role he was born to play.
He's a dump truck driving drunk.
That's a song title right there. Boom. So they steal the dump truck because he slams on the brakes at some point, and he finally realizes they're actually still chained together, and he gets suspicious, and she finds a bottle under the seat and knocks Bruno out and pushes him out. So they steal the dump truck. They end up abandoning the dump truck. They get on a passenger bus, but the police end up inspecting it, and they have to escape the bus, and now they're on the run again. And eventually, I think they get rid of the nuns' outfits at some point.
Yeah. And they had their other clothes with them.
Right. Now begins part 2 of the movie, because then there's a bunch of scenes where they just sort of go from scene to scene, basically to straight. Because really, what ends up happening is there ends up being a shootout at the end of the film. So all the scenes in between are basically just to take up time till you get to the big shootout. Okay.
They're like 3 shootouts before you even get there.
And you
others,
find out everybody and their brother is chasing these women in the Philippines.
Yeah, so you've got
you've got the captain and the police.
the captain of the police is searching for him, and then you've got the Ernesto, the rebel leader, who's searching for them, and then you've got Vic,
who's
Grier's pimp.
Yeah, and he's a really bad guy. Like, he's the worst person of the whole match that you say. But then there's also, in addition to the captain ends up recruiting a mafia member played by the great late Sid Haig, who is
my
absolutely
favorite character in this film.
Oh my God, yes. He's so good in this movie.
By God, he was
playing Jim Croce. No.
Yes. I thought the same thing.
Look just like Jim Croce, except fancier clothes.
You don't mess around with Ruben.
Ruben is cool. I mean, he's a bad person, but Sid Haig plays him absolutely to the hilt. The guy who plays the captain's a really good character too.
Yeah.
And I looked him up. He's mostly in Philippine productions, unfortunately. I wish he did some other stuff because he's great.
But Sid Haig as Ruben was just amazing.
It was.
And there were 2 things I noticed. One, when my son shaves his beard and just keeps the mustache and uses a redneck accent, he reminds me of Sid Haig. Reminded me of my son Connor.
Yeah.
And here's another amazing little bit of trivia. Go ahead, Cal. Then I'll do mine.
I forgot what I was going to say, but it was about Sid Haig.
The way he looked.
Well, no. Remember in our first movie of the season, Motor Psychos, there was a guy who was addicted to listening to the radio.
Yeah.
And Ruben had a fucking pre-Walkman cassette player.
Yeah.
Listening to it just like that guy did in Motor Psychos.
I think it was a
Panasonic.
Panasonic brand tape player.
It might have been, but yeah, it was like a pre-Walkman kind of thing. Because I saw a cassette player. I saw a cassette in it.
Haig and Pam did sort of a loose-based sequel to this movie.
Really?
Yeah, it's The Big Dollhouse, and then they were in that together, and then they were in one. It wasn't really a sequel, but it was kind of like a follow-up, The Big Bird Cage, or Women in Cages, or something like that. But they've been together in several movies.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, Sid was a kind of a standard actor in American International Pictures. And Pam was too. So that makes total sense that they would have been. But I didn't realize that the other one was a sequel. That's great.
Which means we may end up having to watch that.
I think so.
I need to figure out what the exact title is.
But right before Margaret Markov, who played Karen, the rebel girl in this movie, before that, she was in another Philippines movie called The Hot Box, where she's one of a trio of nurses who escaped from a foul, dingy, hellish Filipino penitentiary and joined forces with a band of jungle-dwelling guerrilla fighters trying to overthrow the country's fascist government.
A prequel?
Well, sort of, but she played a different character. The character's name was Lynn Forrest. So apparently,
I don't know why Lynn Forrest sounds so funny to me, but that is.
It sounds like a state park.
By the way, a piece of trivia I do want to mention about this movie: Eddie Romero and another person came up with the story, and the other person was Jonathan Demme, who became a famous Hollywood director. Did a lot of great movies, including Silence of the Lambs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and actually, he's probably one of the best Hollywood directors of his era, honestly, because you look down the list of movies he did, it's unbelievable.
Well,
but
you know,
he off as a contract writer for American International, and was sort of under Corman's tutelage during that time.
Just real quick, I'm going to let you get back to the movie recap, Paul. I wanted to mention this, that right after this movie, Margaret Markov had some bit parts in a few early TV shows in the early 70s. And then she just dropped out of acting and married a director, Mark Damon, who made a lot of shitty Western movies, including Ringo and the Golden Pistol, which if you've not seen that movie,
I have not.
It should be the anchor of our next season.
He did a bunch of British TV shows too, I think. So.
Yes, he did.
All right.
Yeah, but they were married until he died last year of old age and shit.
Okay.
Old age and shit.
That's going to be on my tombstone by God.
What was the name of that film, man? Ringo and the what?
Ringo and the Golden Pistol. Look up the trailer after we get done. Look up the trailer. Ringo and the Golden Pistol.
Okay, so
we're doing bad westerns next season.
I think we should. Not
a bad idea. That would be good. All right, so now the girls get into a series of adventures in their escape, and I'm going to just kind of hit these pretty quickly because most of them end up being relatively inconsequential. They find a house. The house has an outdoor kitchen, so they steal a bunch of food from it. Those dresses that magically reappeared came in handy for.
Yeah.
Then they end up at this other nice house, and and unfortunately these dogs are now chasing them.
Yeah.
They think the dogs belong to the cops, but they never actually show who's guiding the dogs, because that changes. So they end up at this. They find this country, and there's this pretty white dog, and they make friends with the dog, and then Karen takes off her panties and puts them around the dog's neck, and they send the dog off into the jungle. So with the idea that the other dogs will not follow them, but follow her dirty ass panties.
Which I have to say was something I never thought was. That was a fucking genius bit of writing.
Actually, it's not a bad idea. It
was a genius bit of writing.
I mean, I put my underwear around dogs' necks too, but it was for other reasons. So
haven't we all?
So they end up chasing the dog, and the girls get away again. And then they end up.
They go to the blacksmith shop.
They go to the blacksmith shop, and they don't think anybody's there. And it turns out Luis, who is the blacksmith, is passed out in the corner, but he wakes up and sees them, and he's willing to cut them out, but they have to make him happy in little ways. And instead he attacks Karen, and she ends up stabbing him to death
with a screwdriver. One stab with a screwdriver.
And very pinkish blood Luis has.
That was the brightest fucking blood in this whole movie.
Here come the dogs again, and they don't have time to cut through the chains that they've been trying to get through. But they set the place on fire, and it blows up real good. And then
real good.
So they end up the Reuben and the guys end up taking over this house and staying the night while the girls go hide off in the jungle. And the next morning when they wake up, one of Reuben's men, Carlos, is dead, and his dogs are missing. And actually, I could have sworn they said the dogs were dead, and then they said they were missing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's it. So,
But yeah,
and
Carlos was the dog handler.
right.
Yeah.
The next scene is the best scene in the movie, I think. So Sid and his guys are traveling in this crazy looking, like I think it's like an old Toyota CJ.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, it's a Volkswagen. Those were all like
well, this was
Volkswagen country buggies or something.
no, this was a different one. This was
this was an old Jeep. This was an old World War II surplus Jeep.
Like I think it was like the Toyota CJ ripoff version, but it's painted crazy colors and tassels and everything, and giant bull horns on the front.
Yeah.
And one of the things Reuben had told the captain when he hired him is like, look, this is my territory. I don't want anyone following around. And as soon as he's out of earshot, the captain said he was going to have the guy followed. Well, it turns out it's the captain following him. And he's got in the back seat this guy who is like some stooge from the government that works for the minister.
Galindo. Mr. Galindo.
And Galindo is, it turns out there's a third person. She's one of Reuben's main hooker, and she's making Galindo happy in little ways. And then, so finally, Reuben, played by Sid Haig, sees him. He says, I told him not to follow me. So he slams on the brakes and stops the car and gets them out and begins this scene where, you know, he asks the girl, because apparently both guys have had the hooker, and he says, he points at the captain, how big
is he?
Yeah.
He says,
who has the biggest dick?
Yeah. And she says, he does. He said, how big is it? 8. What about his? 4. He's talking about Galindo. And so he says, okay, drop your pants. And they're like, what? I says, do it. Drop it. He's got the gun on him the whole time because he's mad.
Yeah.
So they have to drop their pants. And he looks at the captain and goes, 8. And he looks over at Galindo and he does this kind of funny face. He goes, 4? And the guy next to him, I think 3.5. And so he points the gun like he's going to shoot Galindo's dick off. And Galindo covers up and shuts his eyes, and he hears a gunshot, and all Reuben's done is shot out the tire.
And then Galindo says, Mamma Mia! I launched into an ABBA song. Sorry, I did.
Anyway, he abandons them on the road and tells them to get the hell out of Dodge, basically.
Yeah, just a quick aside. When he told Galindo and Reuben to drop their pants, I honest to God, thought he was going to make Reuben fuck Galindo. I really did, and I was disappointed that it didn't happen.
Well, there's always the sequel, so
which we'll have to film ourselves.
It's like the captain, but it's the captain.
Sorry. Please continue with the breakdown.
We've had so much trivia in here, we haven't even covered half this film.
Yeah.
The dogs end up the thing with the dog when the panties around the neck. They tell you, that actually came after that scene. But anyway, So
they were less than 10. Let's speed up a little bit.
We're at the end here. So the girls happen to come across the rest of the rebels who have the dogs. Because they're the ones who actually stole the dogs. And she's mad at them at first, but they finally figure out that, no, we didn't have the dogs originally. We stole them last night. So
but they were running from the dogs, so it was a happy mishap.
Right. So now, okay, everybody's going to, now, Lee and Karen were going to go different directions, but now that they've caught up, they shoot the chain so they're no longer chained up together. And they're going to go to this point where they can put Lee on a boat, and Karen and the rebels can go off on their own. And they're in this little town where they get to this little town where the boat is, and she's got her $40,000, and this old white dude shows up out of nowhere.
He's the guy who owns the boat.
He's okay. I couldn't figure out where he came from. So okay.
He was the guy who betrayed Vic the pimp.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. And Vic let him live.
And we didn't even touch Vic's storyline in this.
No,
we didn't. I had to skip something. Vic's a bad guy. Tortures one of his hookers and.
Quick recap on Vic's storyline. He's a pimp drug dealer, the biggest apparently in Vietnam, Philippines, wherever they're at on this.
He just says the island.
Yeah.
Right.
And his main concern is that he has plenty of money, plenty of women, plenty of houses, and plenty of drugs, and that he is always being sexually pleasured in small ways. That's his entire storyline.
Licking on his stomach very graphically in one scene.
That was, I was like, wait a minute, hold on.
And
Lottie.
While his gang watched.
Yes.
And a woman is being electrocuted on her tatas.
No, actually, her tatas were uncovered, and the wires were just taped onto her below on her stomach. Then he just brought me a coffee.
Oh, is that lovely?
It's lovely, and this particular coffee ordered from 7 Brew. This particular flavor is called the large hot brunette. I'm not making that up.
We are not getting paid for that endorsement.
Oh, hey, look, everybody! It's my son who
also has 7 Brew.
Who
logos facing out, gentlemen. Logos facing out.
Are you guys going to share a large hot brunette or?
And he looks like
Mine's German.
All right.
And Connor, who could have played Ruben in our movie tonight?
That's right.
He looks just like him with that mustache. He really does.
It does have a
redneck accent, like you're a redneck mafia guy.
That is quite a combination you've got there.
That's what the guy was.
Tony's going to come down there and blow up your car.
That's actually not bad. Yeah.
That was it.
All right, so now they're in the town. I've got to finish this up. They're like walking alongside the rebels were walking alongside the vehicles because they're suspicious that there's going to be an ambush. And sure enough, Vic's guys have shown up, and they've got every weapon under the sun. Nobody's got the same weapon. There's Russian machine guns. There's a couple of guys with Japanese World War II rifles. There's every kind of pistol you can imagine. There's a guy with a fully automatic machine gun and another guy with a grenade launcher. And that becomes important because the shootout starts and everybody's going every direction. They're blasting away and they seem to be the rebels are holding their ground, except one of Vic's guys has this grenade launcher. And they already had taken out one building that Lee just barely escaped from. But then Karen and the rest are running towards, they're going to jump over this little thing so they can hunt. And unfortunately, the grenade hits the building, Bluey, and Karen gets nailed in the chest. And there's a huge spray of blood, alien style. And she collapses to the ground. And that was kind of a big surprise. That was, you kind of expect both of them are going to get away. And Karen dies very graphically, and there's no question. She hits the ground, she is dead. And later, so Vic is somewhat successful, except that Lee gets away, gets onto the boat, and gets away before, unfortunately, she sees Karen die. But by this point, they've become friends because, when you're chained up with someone and check your underwear off running through the jungle, you're gonna connect. So Tom knows when you put underwear around a dog's head, you become.
Oh yeah. The chafing causes you to reach out to people you would normally reach out.
There is a connection that God shall not put us under. Unfortunately, so Karen dies. Some of the rebels escape, but most of them are killed, and they're all lined up. And the captain shows up, and he sees all of them.
They had this weird habit in this film of anytime they killed a large group of people, which happened several times, they have to line them up on the ground.
That Ernesto or Ruben does get killed by Ernesto.
Yes, the rebel leader. Yeah,
yeah. That happened before that.
I shed a tear.
It was, yeah. It was. They had both shot each other, but Sid Haig caught it harder, and he's the better actor anyway. So his death was.
Go back sometime and watch the other shootouts. Before the same people die in every shootout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it's the same actors in every shootout. They all die.
So I wonder if that's like on their resume, professional dyer.
They made a holiday. Led Zeppelin wrote a song called Dyer's Eve. I'm sorry.
You should be.
All right. It's basically the end of the movie. So Lee gets away with the money. Karen and the rebels are cut down by the man, and that's pretty much it.
Hi, here's Archie.
Oh,
Archie's the dog.
Archie is a dog, by the way. Yeah.
Archie's my dog.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Bye, Cindy. Let me know you get
Bye,
home.
Cindy.
Bye, Polly. Bye, Tommy. Love y'all.
Love you too.
Love you too.
And that's it for this movie. Black Mama, White Mama.
Calvin, what did you think? Well, I guess we know what Calvin thinks already. Anyway, join us next week, or whenever it is, for more of the Turkish Diplomats present Charming Noise.